the News Channel 5 network, this is MorningLine with Nick Beres.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us on MorningLine. I am Nick Beres. It is Thursday. We're going to talk this morning, well, politics, but, elements of politics that seep in from what's happening in our society these days on a lot of levels. Some of it kind of disturbing, some of it a little bit scary, some of it I think maybe good, depending on your point of view. And I want your point of view today by calling 737-7587. If you want to join in the conversation, local but national politics. And what's happening. And with us this morning, political science professor from Vanderbilt University, Thomas Schwartz. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Nick.
Nice to have you on, a regular guest on our show. And we just kind of have a wrap session, which we'd like to include you in. There's so much happening, and it's like the president, right now is very, very focused on wanting to get his tax plan through. We see that moving. He continues to tweet. He pays attention, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He tweeted out, when he saw the latest with Matt Lauer at NBC and what's happening on that as he observes that. And then, of course, it's no surprise to you, is it, that, and we've seen cases certainly in the past of these sexual harassment things happening on Capitol Hill now, right?
Yes.
I mean, John Conyers allegations, others, of course, Al Franken. What about this? I mean, do you think we're going to see more? And I know it doesn't surprise you, does it?
It doesn't, and my daughter, who works actually on Capitol Hill for a congressman, messaged me yesterday that there are rumors on Capitol Hill that Politico is going to come out with a story that will talk about Democrats and Republicans who have settled lawsuits. And remember, that can be kept private. And so that was the thing. Conyers, of course, kept it private. There's a non-disclosure agreement. So if Politico is in fact working on this story, or if there is efforts, there may be a number of other figures soon brought into the spotlight because of that. So
that's what brings it out. Some of the media digging on it and such. I mean, I guess I saw something about Representative Blackburn and Cooper both taking steps maybe to there's some hush money fund or something like that.
Yes, the hush money and that sort of thing.
That's what the way I understand it is this would be hush money or money that could maybe be used to pay people to go away that no one will know about.
Well, this is part of the double standard of Congress. Congress can exempt itself from all sorts of rules that it imposes on others. I mean, Congress exempts itself from many of the rules that are in the workplace today dealing with discrimination and other questions. It provides itself an exemption, and this would be another example. This would be an example of that. They have created an ability for any lawsuits or any accusations to be quietly removed, as opposed to being exposed in the public as they would be for a corporation or a media outlet like NBC.
Yeah, and that, folks, is yet another reason why so many people have just a negative view of Washington, D.C., the House and the Senate. Because is that ridiculous? Of course that's ridiculous. Why do they get a special status? Good. I hope Politico brings it out there, and I hope they just lay all those congressmen and possibly a few congresswomen end to end and just expose. He paid 50 grand to get her to shut up because he touched her in a closet. Oh, he was messing around with an intern, I mean, and your daughter, you said, works she
as a staff and press assistant,
Because I had an internship up there at one point, and the Capitol, it's stunning. First of all, the many young and attractive people that want to be there in the halls of power. And should there be an unscrupulous, and there are many of them, congressman or congresswoman, it's like shooting fish in a barrel. No. Yeah. It is, and the stuff that is gone on up there, I can only imagine. And I hope Politico comes with that. I certainly do. I hope they lay them out and just drill each and every one of them. Do you feel that this is, to some degree, a distraction from what the president wants to do with the GOP plan? It seems to, he's also dealing with situation with the, the Alabama senator and all of that. Is it a distraction? Can this take away from the tax plan?
I don't really think so. I think the tax plan and the issues of the tax plan really exist in a different plane. This, however, this may be the type of distraction that may actually work in his favor in allowing him to get this through at a time when everyone is distracted by these other issues.
I was just thinking the same exact thing. Again, the key on this is convincing a handful of senators,
a very small number,
to go. But they need them all, right? As far as I know, no Democrat is going to vote for the plan, and so he needs just about all of them.
Just about all. He can't really afford to lose more than 2 Republicans and that is a complication, because you would have hoped a more adept politically president might have been able to get some red state Democrats who are up for re-election, like Joe Manchin in West Virginia or someone like that, but he has not been able to. Yeah,
and then you wonder about our representatives and senators here. Bob Corker, okay, I mean, he's going to look at this. He's big on, you see the commercials running right now, fiscal conservative and all of this, and tell him what you want him to do for you, but it's something where he's not got to worry about re-election.
Well, that's
Bob
right.
Corker, so he's going to do what he truly thinks is best. Isn't that funny that I have to say that, folks? Because, yeah, we have a legislator who's going to do what he really thinks is best, meaning he's not going to pass what he knows is best through a filter of whether or not that will hurt or help him politically. I love it. I wish it was like that, because everything goes through a political filter, and so what's always best isn't always done, unfortunately. But what about him? I mean, as he looks at this, there's no love lost anymore between him and the president.
No, there isn't. But Corker is also a loyal Republican, and I think the party itself will take a terrible beating if it can't produce this. Or at least that's the suspicion, is that the failure to get a tax bill through will also reflect not just on President Trump, but on the entire Republican Party. And I think Corker has to at least be thinking about that, along with issues of the deficit and what will help the economy grow.
It would be fairly devastating, because if this doesn't go, can you tell me what has?
Well, what Trump can point to is deregulation. He has removed a number of barriers. He's changed the EPA's, for example, its clean coals initiatives. He's also gotten Neil Gorsuch on the Supreme Court through. But that may seem pretty thin.
That's not a.
That may seem thin.
I'm sorry. The Supreme Court thing just happens. I don't view that as some kind of an achievement. I'm sorry, I just don't. But yeah, as far as deregs, that's something, and he can point to maybe the economy doing okay. Right. And the whole dispute in terms of deregs, maybe, and this is where it goes to it. What's the organization where they had the two heads, the one that the president
the Consumer Protection Bureau, yes,
right,
of course,
which a lot of Republicans felt maybe had too much power,
right,
but was in place, right, to try to prevent us from having too many.
Another crisis as in
like we did, where there's horrible loaning and lending and all this.
Yes.
I'm real wary of deregulation. I like the idea of giving business freedom to work, but I'm the last person who's going to say, you know what, I trust business to do what's best for all of us. Because if that's you, you're a fool. Business does what's best for their stockholders, their employees, and their own pocketbook. End of story, period. They don't do what's best for society. So my thing is they need to have some controls, but I don't want it to the point where it's constrained. And I don't have a handle on whether or not that organization was strangling business too much, or was doing it just about right.
Well, I think it clearly, the organization was the product, the brainchild of Elizabeth Warren, and she is sort of a bête noire of Wall Street. They really fear her, and so consequently, I do think this will be something that if Trump is successful in sort of basically taking the teeth out of this organization, this will be something that will appeal greatly to a lot of the donors and other people who have been supporting him.
Yeah, and so I'm just looking for the balance. Like I said, I don't want to shut business down by over-regulating them, but at the same time, I don't want dereg to the point where we end up in another pickle, because that's what happens, folks. You deregulation for a while, business will boom, and then all of a sudden they start taking advantage of the deregs, and then we have another horrible situation like we had just about 10, 12 years ago. Just see, that's my opinion, okay? And if you believe otherwise, you're a fool. You don't deregulate to the point where there's no one watching the hen house. It's just not a smart move. Let's take a call from Joe. Joe, good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, Joe, what's on your mind?
Just listening to some of your stories this morning, I'd like to know what, I agree with more what you said than I do with what the professor said, but I'd like to know what the professor thinks the grade that you would give Mr. Trump from 1 to 10, 10 being the worst, 10 being the best, and 1 being the worst. What kind of a grade would he give him? And how would anybody expect a man that won't show you his own tax returns tell you that he's going to give you a tax break? Now, that Trump is a master of misdirection. When something goes one way, something else will pop up that'll take your mind off of one thing and switch it over to something else. I don't trust no politician anymore, Congress included. These payoffs that you was talking about a while ago, that comes from the taxpayers. But these congressmen, they don't tell you that. They're not paying these people off. You and me and everybody taxpayers.
Yeah, that's right. That's where the money comes from. Well, what do you think? I don't know. How far are we in now? How many days for the president now, I guess?
Almost a year now.
Almost
I mean,
a year,
we're closing in on a year in January.
Yeah, so for a year for him, I mean, it's certainly been interesting.
Yeah. No, and I mean, as far as grading, I think it's even if I was being generous on a curve, I'd probably say it about a 3 or a 4 rather than an absolute 1 for disaster, because it hasn't. I mean, we haven't. I mean, the economy is still going reasonably well. Foreign policy hasn't seen any great disruption. So, but in terms of actual achievements, a fairly limited number, and in a way, he has appeased some of his base, but he hasn't expanded at all his own popular support, which presidents usually seek to do is to reach out and grow their support rather than sort of confining it to their one group of enthusiastic followers.
That's interesting that you said, and I agree with you on that. Yeah, presidents want to expand if they can and show they're more inclusive, and it seems to have been the reverse. Again, maybe he's getting his sea legs now, and he'll be entering his second year. Foreign policy is a good thing. We'll take a break, and the other thing we need to talk about are the very latest developments, which is certainly a concern to all Americans, what we've seen happening in North Korea with this latest launch this week of what appears to be an ICBM that could certainly reach the United States. Came close to Japan, and that's a concern, and the president's quote was, "We're going to take care of it." Didn't say how, but we're going to take care of it. So where do we go from there? Let's take a break. If you're on hold, stay there. We'll get to your calls. If you want to join us, the number 737-7587. More with the good professor in the teal tie right after this. Stay with us.